Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to another episode of Every Second Counts podcast. I'm your host. My name is Tom Ettinger, and today is the fifth episode. I'm highly excited. Today we have Mr. Phil Palmer, United States Marine veteran, owner, and we're going to go over his passion, his project he has going on, the Warrior WOD. I'm truly excited to get into it and find out more about it. Also, the show is brought to you by 22 Mohawks. Make sure you go to 22mohawks.com, Facebook page, Instagram, find out more about how 22 Mohawks is helping veterans, pair veterans with dogs, pair veterans with financial help, helping veterans every day as we can. So make sure you check out 22mohawks.com. And now entering the studio with us is Mr. Phil Palmer. You get this. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Hey, Tom. Doing well. How are you, man?
I'm doing outstanding, man. I'm doing outstanding. I'm so excited to have you on because you reached out to me,
Yeah.
which is highly exciting. And I just love being able to talk to the people that have the same kind of passion as me, that have the same kind of vision, the same kind of um, outlook, I guess, on what we feel is missing, what is needed in our community. So right off the bat, Phil, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. So, born and raised Charleston, South Carolina. Always knew that I was going to come back. Luckily, I was able to accomplish that. But after I graduated the Citadel in 2005, and it was interesting, like I joined or I signed the paperwork to get commissioned in the Marine Corps literally 7 days before 9/11 happened. So when I
Okay.
signed, like there was no Iraq, there was no Afghanistan war, there was no weapons of mass destruction or like none of that was part of our lingo. And so I signed, and then
Mhm.
7 days later, watching on the TV, the planes at the Twin Towers, everything changed, right? And so
Absolutely.
I was already destined to kind of go into the Marine Corps, but it really solidified it at that point. And so I had to finish out my college time at the Citadel and graduated in 2005. Was lucky enough to literally graduate and then drive up to Quantico, Virginia for
Mhm.
basic school. Finished the basic school, went into Intel school, and then quickly after I showed up in my first unit, hey, congratulations, you're going to go on a mid team. And so it was really without taking a breath, I was graduating to deploying to Iraq almost pretty much instantly. When you think
Mm.
about it, like the span of time separated, right? Found myself in Ramadi, Iraq, with a MIT team, some amazing individuals. I got an opportunity to go and see a retirement for one of when I was a lieutenant. He was a captain. He retired in April of last year, so coming up on a year in retirement. And man, like looking at these individuals, I was walking amongst giants. Now Colonel Lively, who was a MU commander recently, Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Cray, Lieutenant Colonel John Welch, like Struzik, Tierney, all of these guys are colonels and lieutenant colonels at this point. They're taking the Marine Corps to the next level, and it was just slowly me amongst these giants, right? So during that time, very kinetic time in Ramadi. It was right before the Sunni awakening. Got to watch that while I was there, wounded by an IED. You hear Monty Python, merely a flesh wound, right? And so I walked away very, very lucky, and literally it was merely a flesh wound, right? But you know, there was in that year the amount of Iraqis we lost, the amount of casualties we saw with the Army battalion we were attached to. Nobody walks away from that the same. And
Mhm.
wherever you fall on that spectrum, you're different coming home. And I was a part of that. I was different coming home. So came back late 2007, and I'm itching. I'm a first lieutenant at this point. I'm itching to do everything I have to do to get company command, right?
Absolutely.
And during that time, there was a stigma, and I'm sure that there's still an element of that around now. But if you wanted to be in leadership, whether you're a staff NCO, whether you were an officer, it didn't really matter. you didn't have mental health issues.
Oh no, not at all. It
And,
didn't.
and so myself and many like me, we sucked it up, right?
Mhm.
So, I did another deployment in Iraq. I ended up finding myself at the basic school as an instructor. So going full circle, which was really cool, a most rewarding time. And then at the tail end of that, I ended up working with Lieutenant Colonel Joe Shisco, who developed our the MACE program in the martial arts
Absolutely.
Corps, and he's on my board now. Talk about another giant walking amongst giants, like one of the men that I have the most respect for in the world, and so got got to know him very well, and he's like, "Hey, Phil, like you need to go take care of this." I was like, "Nope, nope. I don't know where my destiny is going to go. One day I want to be a battalion commander." And finally, like as I ended my tour with Colonel Shisco, then went to TCOM, Training and Education Command, and realized my future was going to be sitting behind a desk, right? Like
Mhm.
I was like, I don't know if I necessarily want to sit behind a desk for 8 years to become a battalion commander. And if we're not in combat, it's, there's battalion commanders that go to combat and there's battalion commanders that stay stateside, right?
Mhm.
And it's a vastly different experience, and nothing negative against either one. You're given the cards you're dealt, but I wanted to take Marines to combat. And
Absolutely.
I quickly realized that spending 8 years sitting behind a desk was not the journey that I wanted to go to, even with that carrot at the end. So I got out in 2013, and this was my first opportunity to really take care of myself. Got involved in the VA. The VA started pushing antidepressants, and then also, just brief moments of therapy, but it wasn't working for me. The antidepressants were numbing me, and the things that haunted me were kind of blurred out. But socially and occupationally, I wasn't functioning at a level that was in line with what I could do. I was
Absolutely.
completely numbed. So, on a whim, and I'm tying into where we're going to go about talking about Warrior WOD on a whim. I was like, yeah, I'm starting to get a little puffy. Like I probably need to go to the gym, start working out again. Like it's been a couple years, and it's starting to show. And so just happened to be there was a gym a mile down the road from me. Happened to be CrossFit. I'm not a CrossFit junkie or in the cult, but the closest gym was literally a mile away. I could run there, work out, run back. And you
What time was this around?
2015, yeah.
2015. So CrossFit was getting bigger. It was getting really big by 2015.
Yeah, yeah. So I knew of CrossFit, but
Mhm.
to me, it was just we did high intensity training. We did combat fitness in the Marine Corps. To me, it
Mhm.
sounded the same. I didn't quite understand the magnitude of how big CrossFit was until I joined. I literally joined in the middle of the open. So for anybody that's listening, my introduction to CrossFit was learning how to snatch 5 minutes before the CrossFit Open workout that had snatching.
Mhm.
um, but what was beautiful about it, and this is what I love about any gym that has this kind of community. You walk in and have the American flag, the Marine Corps flag, the Army flag, all the branches. And then we do these things called hero WODs, honoring those that have fallen, right?
Mhm.
And you do a PR and everybody celebrates. And if you're the last one in the finish, you get the loudest applause. Like take the modality of how they do fitness out of the equation. The community that they have is very, very amazing, especially for someone like me that was struggling and needed something like that. Right. Uh,
Absolutely.
and so within a year of this environment, again, take the exercise portion out of it, the community piece of it, I was off of antidepressants completely,
Mhm.
which like blew me away. And I thought that there was something there. So fast forward, now we're in 2019. My wife and I were living in Houston, Texas,
Mhm.
working out of C4 CrossFit. Amazing individuals there as well, Ida and Chris, and all the coaches there, absolutely amazing. But in my job, I got promoted, and they said, "Hey, you can live anywhere in the Southeast." you're going to work remotely. You can work anywhere in the Southeast. I was like, cool. I walked and talked to my wife, who's a Texan. And if
Mhm.
you know anything about Texans, they're super proud about being Texans and
Absolutely.
uproot them from Texas. You have accomplished something. And I walk in, I was like, hey, we can live anywhere. Where would you like to live? I would like to get back to Charleston because that's where I grew up. And she's like, let's do it. And literally, that was our conversation. So that's a testament to how amazing my wife is. Um, so we moved to Charleston in 2019. It was June 19th, 2019. And it was right before 4th of July. And that's the only reason why I remember that date. And the coaches there basically said, hey, we'll help you unload your trucks. We'll help you move in. Just, building that community again. Never met these people, right?
Mhm.
So I show up the next day to the gym, and the owner, Shannon, comes up to me and says, hey, listen, I know you're a veteran. 4th of July, we do this huge veteran thing where every single day we do a hero WOD for 7 days. But we don't do the Murphs. We don't do the Chads. What we do is homegrown. Do you have someone that you've lost that means a lot to you that you want to honor? And I did. One of my
Mhm.
friends at the Citadel, Joshua Booth, was killed by a sniper in Haditha. The same, essentially the same week that I showed up in Iraq, and so it was one of those things. Like, to honor him was an amazing thing, and they put together a horrifically awesome workout. Like, it hurt so bad, so good to honor him in such a way, right? And
Mhm.
when we finished, they said, "Hey, go talk to that guy." No context, just go talk to that guy. You'll want to meet him. And so I walk over. His name's Justin Riccio. And it's like, hey, Justin, like, Shannon told me I need to come talk to you. He's like, oh, amazing workout, man. We're doing my brother's workout tomorrow. I was like, okay, there's the connection, right?
Mhm.
Talking to Justin, what I'm learning is that his brother battled Fallujah. I was in Ramadi, right? So both very
Mhm.
places. Marine as well. Both of us got hit by IEDs. He came home and immediately got out, where I stayed in for a little longer.
Mhm.
And his journey took him through drugs and alcohol. And his younger brother, being Justin, was like, you know what? That's what my brother's doing. That's what I should be doing too. And so Justin followed suit, drugs and alcohol, the two of them, going down a very dangerous path.
Mhm.
Fast forward 10 years, and Justin's brother, Nick, ends up losing his life to substance abuse, right? And so, but like, as I'm talking to Justin, it's very evident it was because of his invisible wounds that he got while he was in Fallujah, right?
Absolutely.
And so at that moment, it was like, there's the connection. We've got to do something about that. So we tried for 2 years to get something going, but I'm a knuckle dragger, man. Like, I didn't know how to start a business. I didn't know how to start a nonprofit. Like, we were trying to help people when we were, but not at the magnitude we can do now. And finally, in 2021, we're like, all right, let's make this thing official. Let's go national. Let's really drive this as hard as we can. The statistics are just overwhelming, both from
Mhm.
a suicide perspective and deaths from a substance abuse perspective. Like, knowing this, I have to do something about it.
Mhm.
And so we started Warrior WOD, and that kind of leads us to today, man. Like, um, yeah, that's kind of the background.
That was beautiful. I love that. Because now what I would like to do is just go through the little introduction that you gave and be
Yeah,
able to pick certain things out because I feel that it established the path along the way.
yeah, yeah,
So for listeners that are listening, when he joined the officer side of the Marine Corps, meaning he was in college, completed college, then pursued to go to the basic school, officer candidate school, become a Marine Corps officer. Um, when you go to these schools, please tell that I have a long time on recruiting duty, so I understand the officer side of recruiting duty. It's a lot different than enlisted recruiting, and it's a lot more managed differently
yeah.
as far as preparation. But when you go to OCS or you go to the basic school, how do you feel they prepare you for any kind of leadership or trauma, as
Yeah.
far as you're in that position, how do I react?
Yeah.
If even, if you feel they even prepare you for that, how do you feel going to the basic beginning officer schools in the Marine Corps? How do you feel that helped you prepare?
Yeah. So I would say OCS is set up in such a way that they want you to fail, right? And saying this very meaningful, but I'm also giving kudos to the staff. They want
Absolutely.
you to fail. They put you in positions that you're going to fail, but what they are evaluating you on is how you bounce back. Everybody, officer enlisted, it doesn't matter if you're a general or a PFC, right? You're going to do something and you're going to fail at something. If you were perfect, then you'd be walking on water, right?
Hmm.
And so what they're trying to figure out is, do you have what it takes that when you have a casualty on the battlefield, when aim left when you should have shot right, all of these things, like how do you adjust course and or adaptable, because at the heart of it, your decisions actually are impacting Marines lives. Every
Absolutely.
decision you're making, whether good or bad, has an impact. And so that's what they're trying to see is when you do have something that pops up that doesn't go the way you want, what are you going to do about it?
Absolutely.
And so that was OCS, the basic school. Really what they're and it's literally the basic school. It's, hey, the basics of being a provisional rifle platoon commander. Not everyone goes into infantry, right? I didn't. I found myself doing infantry stuff, but like I'm an intel guy, right? And the only way I was able to make that transition is because I had that 6 months of the basic school.
Hmm.
The basic school was supposed to be, a leadership academy, per se, right? And so the idea there is they ingrained in you everything that you should have seen from Marine officers. Marine officers eat last one to go to sleep, first one up. You are selfless. Like everything you do should be benefiting those that you serve. That's where you get that piece. So was it a perfect academy? Absolutely not.
Hmm.
There were when I was at the basic school as a student, it was 2005, and I would say two-thirds never deployed at this
Hmm.
point. Now, luckily, my SBC, now I think he's out now, but he got out as a Lieutenant Colonel White. He was one of the very, very few that actually have seen combat at this point. All right. And so you get that mix of the old garrison version of Marine Corps and then the very few that have actually seen combat. And there seem to be some contradictions. Now you go to the basic school, and every single one of those captains have probably seen multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, right? Before I got there, I had two deployments under my belt, right? Um, so there was a transformation. And then it really became about preparing Marine officers to lead in combat. And so, some of the garrison stuff, like I've never been in a parade in the Marine Corps. Like at all. I've never had to use my sword. I never did the manual of arms. Like those are the things. Like I couldn't tell you how to do it today. Like I would probably goon it up so bad. But there was a shift when I showed back up in 2009 where I was preparing that lieutenant to take Marines downrange because one of those Marines very well could have been a Marine that served under me. And I have a brotherhood with them that I want to make sure that the leader that they get next is the best person in the world to take them to combat. So that was what I got out of the basic school.
That's perfect. That was a great answer. I appreciate the split in the schools because there's a I think a growing difference once you go to OCS and then once you go to the basic school, there's a underlining understanding. Now, like I mean, I was enlisted my whole career, but there's a Marine Corps understanding that if you did this, now this is part of it. So you just have to just roll with it.
Yeah.
And just this is it. So when you got deployed and you got injured, you got hit by an IED, did you come home or did you stay there? Did you go to Germany?
Yeah.
What happened there?
Yeah. So when I say it was merely a flesh wound, it truly was. So it we were starting Operation Murfreesboro, which was a element of the greater battle for Ramadi, and it was right before the Sunni awakening, and our mission, and we had a detachment of SEALs with us, but we were taking the Iraqis, and then there was three of my team on it as well, right?
Mhm.
That lieutenant colonel that I said just retired, he was the ground force commander at the time. Captain Cray, myself, and then our radio man, Sergeant Batesel, now Major Batesel, who is a pilot in the Marine Corps, an amazing individual as well. So we stepped off, and we were just always hounding our Iraqis not to walk through the trash because you go on both sides of the road. There's a tremendous amount of trash, right? It
Mhm.
was a disgusting place, just trash everywhere. And one of the Iraqis was walking through the trash, stepped on a pressure plate IED. He took the blunt of it, truly. Like I hope died instantly, just because it was pretty catastrophic, right? I hope there was zero suffering. He took a blunt of it. Another Iraqi that was in between me and him took a significant amount of shrapnel, and I just took a couple pieces afterwards, right? And I stayed, right? It was nothing that would have warranted me even going to Camp Ramadi to try to get a second level of care. Luckily,
Mhm.
our corpsmen, we were out of Eagle's Nest, OP Eagle's Nest in Malab, Ramadi. And we went back. The corpsman took care of me, looked at that, picked out the little pieces of shrapnel, and I was good. So it was very, very minor. Like when we think at the spectrum of what people get Purple Hearts for, I'm at the far end of the spectrum where it's like very, very minor to the other side. Like last night, I happened to stumble on Kyle Carpenter, one of his interviews, and
Mhm.
I'm listening to this story of him jumping on this grenade, and it humbles the hell out of me because we were awarded the same Purple Heart, right? But what he
Mhm.
did is just vastly. I mean, I would like to think put in the same situation, I would have done the same thing. But man, that again, walking amongst heroes, like the whole era that we've been in the military, you and I both,
Mhm.
we had the opportunity to walk amongst giants.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think being able to for listeners to even see it, you get injured, horrific things, you guys are clearing the roads, you're going down. There is no timeouts. There's no let me worry about me, especially a person in your position because you had Marines there. So
Yeah.
you couldn't just take a timeout, I got to worry about me. It becomes extremely selfless. Like you said, the schools set you up for it, but now you're in action. So the whole time you're not worried about going nowhere. You're worrying about doing your job, hoping everyone's all right, and keeping the Marines moving forward.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man.
So when you transition, you do your two tours. When you go back to the school, you're an instructor now. So you're a captain at this point?
Yeah, I showed up as a first lieutenant, and like a month or two later, I pinned on captain, which was super cool because the same MIT leader, now Colonel Lively, at the time was just pinning on major. Major Lively came and promoted me. So this guy has been a part of my development from a brand new lieutenant to a captain to I talk to him pretty regularly. So yeah, that brotherhood is stick pretty hard. But yeah, I was just pinning on captain at that time.
And that's a beautiful thing because I think no matter what branch, no matter the rank, no matter commission, not commission, there's always going to be that mentor, that someone that you don't have to talk to every day, but there's that community
Hmm.
inside that I mean, I real quick, I haven't talked to a guy in 10 years. He got out of the Marine Corps when Terror came out, 2015. He was a staff sergeant. He said he was done. I talked to him about 2 weeks ago, maybe, and we talked for about 2 hours on the phone. I
Yeah.
haven't talked to him since, and I retired, 2 years ago, and at no conversations, and we just kicked it. We were recruiters together. We ran stations together, and it was just the conversation. I think that is something that not only we have common with other military members, but veterans.
Yeah.
Veterans, I think that isolation is something that comes when you get out complete. I just want to do my thing, but there's that reach back that well, it happened to me especially to where I'm out. Do I want to contact people I served with? Where am I at now? I worked with a lot of people, but there's those mentors, there are those people that no matter what you are, wherever you are in life, that conversation sparks something in you,
Yeah.
and it gives you that motivation no matter what you're dealing with. Just that conversation with that person changes your day.
1000%, man. And
Mhm.
I know we're not talking about Warrior WOD yet, but the success that we're seeing, uh,
Mhm.
we have different elements in our program, and there's essentially three different elements. The one that has the biggest reward or the biggest success is our Battle Buddy program,
Mhm.
which is exactly what you're talking about. It is work or talking to someone that has walked a mile in your shoes, that can empathize, that understands the stories that you're talking about, that can feel the frustrations you're dealing with or the joys that you're dealing with, and celebrate or motivate as necessary because they've been there. That's a game
Absolutely.
changer, man. It's 1000% a game changer. I got out when I first got out of the Marine Corps, found myself in New Orleans, and the group of people that I started associating myself with down there, none of them served. Great people, nothing against them. A lot of them I consider great friends till today, right?
Mhm.
But I couldn't talk to them because if I told them, what was going on in my mind, or, the things that were bothering me, or even try to make jokes about what I've done in the military, it would fall on deaf ears. And
Different crowd.
yeah, 1000%, right? And so I agree with you full heartedly that that one call that you had after 10 years probably changed your outlook for months to come,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
it just energizes you. It brings you peace.
And I don't wanna say I dodged his calls, and I talked about this, last week when I was on with a guy, but I think it was just the fear that like, I wanted to talk to him, but
Mhm.
I just couldn't call him back. He was messaging me, "Hey, what do I have to do to call you? Hey, I listened to the podcast. It was great." Like, dude was just so encouraging, but I was so withdrawn from trying to make that connection. And once I do, it was like, man, we should talk every day. You know what
Yep.
I mean? Like it just became something that energized, and it just changed my whole, like you said, my outlook. Like, man, I should start calling all these people I know.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
like that was the weirdest thing. Like you said, that conversation changes your outlook and how you're feeling, because I believe we become hostages of our own mind. If you have any spare time, you could become a hostage at any moment of your mind, of memories, of thoughts, of self-doubt. And when you talk to someone that you worked with, that you served with, who that you could talk to anyone about anything,
Yeah.
and no matter how funny, silly, offensive, no matter what, you're able to just to have that conversation with zero fear of judgment of anything. And I think that's something we lose when we get out of the military, that security blanket, I feel.
Yeah, 1000%. I whether you call it a whoopee or a poncho liner,
Oh, I
I
like
mean,
that.
that's
Okay.
exactly what it is, right? It's that security blanket. Yeah, man, 1000%. Like, when I'm the most energized and I'm the most like myself when I'm talking to you, or I'm talking to John, who I serve with, or any of these guys that I've spent time, whether directly or indirectly, serving with. that's another beauty of Warrior WOD, and this is for me is that every
Mhm.
single day I get to talk to other veterans that I've never met before, and in various different branches that our stories are the same. That's the thing. Like I was talking to a guy that's in the army, and outside of the different color uniforms and whether you salute in country or not, like we're the same. And
Mhm.
the conversation we had, if I wouldn't have known that he was in the army, it would have been I would have just assumed he was a Marine, right? And that's what energized me was it was so long since I've had a conversation like that, and all of a sudden I feel like my old self.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a beautiful thing where how easy camaraderie can change the trajectory of a veteran and where he's going or she's going.
Absolutely. Now, I felt I struggled with this when I got out. How old were you when you got out of the Marine Corps?
I've been out for, I'm going on 10 years this year. So that would put me right at 30.
Okay, so you got out 30. How did you feel going from the college student to getting out of the Marine Corps?
Yeah.
Wh
So,
when your commission ended, how did is there a difference you feel?
yeah, 100%. And I'm at a different, so the college that I went to is a military academy. Um,
Mhm.
and so, and I love the Citadel. Uh, it made me the person that I am. I learned at that time more about how to be a bad leader than a good leader. Or let me rephrase that because that came out incorrectly. I learned more about leadership of watching bad leaders and saying I never want to do that than I did about good leadership. But you got to remember when I went in, everybody or nobody had any combat experience. Now they're blanketed with combat experience. And even then, so when I showed up to the basic school and I spent my time in the Marine Corps, I've had a element of what a military environment should look like, right?
Mhm.
So 14 years later, I'm getting out, and it was so different, man. Like being a civilian is freaking hard. Like, let's just be very blunt about it. Like, we talk about, our time in the military and how hard that was. Being a civilian, hard. Nobody's telling you how to do anything. I went from slightly being an adult, in quotes, being an adult in the military, but being very regimented because, well, that's the environment we lived in, to the world's your oyster. You know, and what you do is on your own merit, whether you succeed or fail. And when you
Mhm.
fail, no one's going to dig you out. Um,
Absolutely.
and so luckily, my path was a good path. Like I got out of the military and I took a job in sales. How I got into sales, I have zero idea. Actually, look, I'll tell you how I got into sales. Um, I walked into the interview, and this guy, Randy Allen, what ended up becoming my district manager. I walked and he says, "You're in the military. You have no business being in sales." I was like,
Roger that.
"Bullshit." And I spent the whole interview telling him why I should be in sales. And what he was looking for is, could I overcome an objection?
Mhm.
And so because I was sheer determination or ego or whatever you want to call it, or I just don't like to lose, um, that started my journey into sales. But even then, like as a district manager, it was not the same as having a staff NCO or a platoon commander over you, right? It was, yeah, here's what you need to do. If you fail to do it, you're gone.
Mhm.
Whereas in the military, it's like, hey, if you fail to do this, well, you're going to, have these consequences associated, but you're stuck with us for the next 2 years until your orders change, right?
Mhm.
So it was a different environment, man. It was vastly different. I found being a civilian was harder than being in the military. I loved being in the military. I loved the Marines that I served with. We all have the similar personalities and humor, and when things get tough, we seem to do our best. Um,
Absolutely.
but in the civilian world, man, it's hard. Like for
Hmm.
anybody that has done that from day one, got out of high school or college and just done nothing but that, kudos to you, because I would have failed on my face. Like if I, and here's a good example. Like there's two big schools here in Charleston. There's College of Charleston and there's Citadel, and most people go there. Now, obviously, people leave to go to Clemson. People leave to go to the University of South Carolina. But if you're staying local, you go to those two. If I would have gone to the College of Charleston, I would have not graduated. I know
Yeah.
that for a fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
The,
Hmm.
the institution that had an emphasis on discipline is the reason why I was able to graduate, because they made me have discipline. The Marine Corps, I would not have built to where I was when I left the Marine Corps if it wasn't for the discipline. And quite frankly, if it wasn't for the staff NCOs that made me not fail. Right. I had so many staff NCOs. My first one straight out of Intel school was Gunny Carson. I remember this guy one day shut the door and he said, "If you micromanage anymore, I'm going to kick your ass." Now he did it behind closed doors, but like
Hmm.
if it wasn't for someone like that, I I wouldn't be where I am now. But it was the Marine Corps and that whole environment that um, made me disciplined. I couldn't imagine doing this without the military. Like I would be a ball of mess right now. So
Absolutely. No, I agree because I did do that. I joined when I was 18, went to recruit train when I was 19, and retired when I was 39. And that's why I asked, because it's like you have that time capsule, and then I got out and I'm like, am I 18 or 19 or am I 40 now?
yeah,
Like what is people doing? What is going on? Things are different.
yeah,
No, and there's so many, and like you said, sky becomes the limit. And there was so you're surrounded by orders, you're surrounded by, what are we doing today? What is the plan? Every day is structured around some sort of training, and it just keeps you moving throughout the day and throughout your career to where when you get out, it's like, all right, I have to motivate myself to move forward. I have to motivate myself to do things, and nothing's going to happen for us.
yeah, yeah.
So I have to find out more about Warrior WOD. I want more people to find out about Warrior WOD. I've done my research. I've looked into it. What can people find out? And if you haven't already, go to YouTube, watch the Warrior WOD commercial. It is so badass. Just watching the commercial, I was like, this is badass right
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Man, thanks for that plug. Uh, we were very lucky. So, someone on my board, Blake, he owns How to, or owns the wrong word. He's the president of How to Media. Great marketing firm, great individual, but he just beat the roads for us for a while, and he got lined up with the one of the videographers from Bang Energy Drink, and so they decided to, at no cost, do a video for us. The only catch was I had to drive from Charleston to Fort Lauderdale. And so, a buddy and I jumped in at midnight, drove straight down to Fort Lauderdale to do some workouts and then drive back. Right. But that team did an amazing job with that video. It blew me away. Um,
Yeah, it
so thanks
looks
for that
sick.
plug.
It
Uh,
looks sick.
It was. Now, with my GoPro or my iPhone, there's no way in hell I could have created that. So I'm very blessed that they did that for us. But about Warrior WOD, man, like here's a statistic, or here's like what just drives me with Warrior WOD, and it's my passion. Like I have a 9 to 5 outside of Warrior WOD, so I do this after my daughter goes to bed, kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
But why am I willing to dedicate so much time? One death's too many, man. And I see the 22 behind you. Like one death's too many. And there is a need. And if you would have asked me, hey, do you enjoy what you do? I love it. I love watching a veteran that needs help and at the end of our program has a way forward that's going towards like solid recovery and that
Hmm.
they're doing well. I love that. But I wish I didn't have to do it.
Absolutely.
I wish that my organization and Mission 22 and 22 Mohawks and Warrior Surf and Vet WOD, I wish that we didn't have to exist. But unfortunately, there's a gap in coverage. Statistics, man, like 6,100 veterans die a year from suicide. Now, that averages out to roughly 20 to 22 a day, right? Depending on which report you read. But there's no like argument about there's over 6,100 that die a year. In addition, and this aggravates me that it's not part of the statistics, and you've got to really dig for it. Another 20 veterans die a day from substance abuse.
Hmm.
And so, when the VA looks at statistics for that 22 a day, a weapon has to be in the hand or there has to be a suicide note. But that doesn't account for the person that, gobbles down a bottle of pills with the same intent, or the
Hmm.
person that numbs their pain for 10 years, slowly increasing the toxicity of the drugs that they're taking, right? And
Hmm.
because they need to numb it just a little bit more. That's still, you're taking your life, right? And so when I look at this math, 6,100 commit suicide, another 6,000 die a year from substance abuse. That's over 12,000 veterans that we no longer have with us. That's 12,000 veterans that husbands or wives, daughters, mothers, and fathers no longer have that person in their life anymore.
Absolutely.
How many people died from Iraq and Afghanistan? And again, one death's too many. So I'm not discounting anyone, but how many lost their lives in Iraq and Afghanistan? It was 6,900 ish, right? Depending on which website you look at, it's around 6,900.
Hmm.
Double that, and that was 20 years. Double that each year almost, we lose veterans to suicide.
Absolutely.
And when you peel that back, man, when you really analyze why the bulk of these people are no longer with us, because they would rather numb their invisible wounds to the point, or death was a better choice than dealing with their invisible wounds. And so that's where Warrior WOD is, right? We use exercise and nutrition. We prioritize that as prescriptions for PTSD, right? What we're trying to do is get way down river before the weapon is in the hand, or the pills, or someone's going from alcohol to cocaine to meth, and following that suit. We're addressing the issue before those are even thoughts, so that those that we care about, that brotherhood that you and I just discussed earlier, and why, like, where we came from in our military days, like, I don't want to see another veteran die unnecessarily. And so, Warrior WOD, what we do to help our veterans, and we truly believe exercise and nutrition are prescriptions. Is it the only prescription? Absolutely not, right? There's amazing programs around this country that's popping up doing, whether it's horseback riding or surfing or scuba diving or, hunting or whatever it is. Exercise is not the only prescription. It's a prescription that is showing better results than what antidepressants are doing.
Hmm.
We want to help veterans recover. That the bottom line, that's what we're doing. And so for each veteran in our program, we will give them 6 months of a gym membership at no cost. And I don't care if it's CrossFit, I don't care if it's jiu-jitsu, I don't care if it's Orange Theory, Planet Fitness. It's where that veteran needs to go to be motivated, held accountable, and move. And that's a conversation that I have with every single one of the veterans. Right before we jumped on the call, I was talking to a veteran, actually locally to my area. CrossFit was where she wanted to go. We talked through it. I made sure that it was because it wasn't the closest gym. I made sure that it wasn't because someone else was influencing her. It was like, hey, Why do you want to go? And that's where she feels at home. So that's where she's going, right? Um, at the same time, we give them 6 months of nutrition coaching. So the statistics are, if you have a healthy diet, eating the things that you know we're supposed to be eating, right? You can reduce depression and anxiety by 30%. Very
Mhm.
meaningful, right?
Absolutely.
And then the last piece of our program um, is a battle buddy program. And so we pair every single one of the veterans in our program with another veteran that's walked a mile in their shoes. They can empathize. They understand where they've come from. If it's you and I, if you're my battle buddy and you're saying, "Hey, Phil, like you need to get your shit together. Like you haven't been working out in the last 2 weeks," that means something to me, right? Because you've been in my shoes. You've probably dealt with your own invisible wounds. You've found recovery in your own way. Maybe it has been through fitness. And so our success is largely dependent on the Battle Buddy program. The exercise and nutrition is awesome, but the camaraderie piece, I think, it is really the linchpin. Here's the thing, man. Like we do, every single one of our veterans, when they start, they fill out a survey at the beginning and each single month afterwards. We use what's called the PCL-5.
Okay.
The same thing that the VA uses. It's 20 different symptoms that it's analyzing, and there's a severity associated with it. But it allows us to quantify your post-traumatic stress compared to mine, compared to someone else. When we looked at how veterans came into the program and how they left, looking at that PCL-5, we saw an 18% decrease in symptoms over 6 months. Now, here's a very pointed question. Name an antidepressant that does that.
I don't think they make anything like that
No.
that will reduce anything. I
Yeah.
think it's a time release thing. It'll help you for that day,
Yeah. Yep.
but not symptoms overall, 18%. 6 months, there's no way.
Yeah. 1000%. Now, are there other programs that produce that as well? Yeah. And I'll sing their praises all day long. Warrior Surf here in Charleston, they do the same thing I do with surfing. Mission 22, they're a little bit downriver, but they're having amazing results. There's organizations that can do that, but if you notice, none of these have antidepressants in it. No, and the other piece that just hits me to the bone is a lot of times what the VA is given is just a gateway drug to something harder.
I can see that
Yeah, whether
because
it's opium or it's antidepressants, like that's the first step. Oh, that numbed me, but it's not numbing me enough. And then they build to the next level, and then they build to the next level. No, there's too many people dying from substance abuse. Let's use other methods. So yeah, our program, I'm super proud about. I can't take any of the credit. I give all the credit to the battle buddies, and I give all the credit to the gyms that we're working with. Uh,
mhm.
but we're seeing so much positive results out of it, and I'm stoked to see where we're going to be in 5 years, and how much impact we can actually make.
So let's say I'm a veteran. I've lost the motivation. I got out, either recently or I got out years ago.
Yeah,
How would I find out about Warrior WOD? Where could I go to? What could I do to get because I actually went through Mission 22's thing because, when I got out, I wanted to be an ambassador for everything
yeah, yeah,
because it all helps veterans. I want to be part of it. So I had to go through it to realize it and go through it. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going through it. But I learned so much and so many doors and windows were opened personally that
yeah.
I could see how if I'm a veteran and going through a warrior WOD, what do you feel that could be the difference in someone's life?
Yeah, so when a veteran comes through Warrior WOD, obviously they get the spotlight for 6 months, and we're heavily invested in them. Now, if a veteran at the end of 6 months is still struggling, we're not turning them away. But let's recalibrate it. Or if exercise is just not your jam, let's get you to where your jam is, right? But I'm going to be a part of that journey to help them where they need to go. For most of our veterans, they decide that they want to pay it forward, right? And so either they volunteer a little bit for us, or they become battle buddies themselves. And that's what I mean by literally walking a mile in their shoes, right? But what the beauty of that is, and probably very similar to what you've experienced with Mission 22, they stay connected. They still have a network. They still have a line in reaching out to other veterans and building that camaraderie and being a part of that community still. Um, we talked about the success that we've had with statistics, but just subjectively or anecdotally, like it's so cool watching a veteran that was just at the end of their rope to,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got one right now, and obviously I'm not going to share his name, but just an amazing individual. And when I did the onboarding call with him back in December, like I very vividly remember this conversation, and he was near tears that
Mm-hmm.
something was there that could help him out. 3 months later, because he started January 1st, watching what he's doing and seeing the change in his attitude and hearing the difference in his voice, man, like he's on his way. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what he's going to do, after we graduate, but I guarantee you he's going to have a positive impact. And he's an amazing individual, but he was going towards the point where he was going to be a statistic. Um, and now he's going towards the point where he's going to help other people not being a statistic. That's amazing, man. Uh,
That's beautiful. Absolutely.
that's what I think Warrior WOD, with a veteran that comes into our program, take aside like the statistics. That's what I see that they will end up with is they're going to take a journey that is all about helping themselves. And then all of a sudden they're going to find that that journey also to help themselves is also going to be helping other people.
Absolutely. What do you think about CrossFit as itself? Because I'm addicted to CrossFit. I'm I got a bunch of knee problems, arm problems, shoulder problems. I'm as broken as they come, but it's always fun to get in there. I mean, my stomach hurts from a WOD we did 2 days ago,
Yeah, yeah.
and so why do you think CrossFit is so exhilarating, not to veterans per se? Civilian community, we already know they're nuts, but but I mean, take away CFT, take away, I know I was out of the fleet for so long, but I know, they created the Marine Corps CrossFit kind of thing. All and I mean, now I'm jealous because now every base has everything.
Yeah.
Now they have everything, Rogue everything. When I was there was a little Connex box over there with some ropes and
Yeah, and you
know,
were worried about getting a tetanus shot for using the equipment. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But why do you think CrossFit is so good for veterans?
Yeah, man. I think it was kind of, and just give before I jump into that, like I love CrossFit. I agree with the modality. I got burnt out at the end of last year, and I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to spend like a month just doing traditional weightlifting. I need a break, right? It was after the Open, and all the competitions were kind of dying. And I can't make this up. Like I came up with a traditional weightlifting workout. I had a guy program it for me, and I went out and did bench press. It was chest, back, and bi day, right? And
Mhm.
so I went out, did the whole workout, came back into my wife and was like, hey, next week I can't do chest. Like something feels weird. Like, do not let me do it. And then
Mhm.
fast forward to the next week on my chest back by day. I was like, you know what? I feel good enough. I'm just going to go light. And I start warming up, and I didn't have much on it. Like it was like 155. I was just warming up, right?
Mhm.
And I come down, get one rep, and I was like, something feels weird. Instead of like racking it, I did it again. And I came down to here. As I came up, my pec tore.
Ooh.
And so all of a sudden you saw like the barbell go like this.
Mhm.
And I fought it even with that tore pec because I'm in my garage, man. Like And my wife's upstairs, my daughter, like that thing's going on my neck if I don't get it up. So
We've all been there.
yeah, I racked it. And so I tell you all that because I haven't done CrossFit since November. Because there's no way I can do a bar muscle up. There's no way I can do ring muscle ups. Like burpees is a challenge. Like I've never thought, like outside of the fact that it gassed you, like from a muscle standpoint, that I couldn't do a burpee. But I can do a one hand burpee, but that gets old really fast, dude. So why do I think CrossFit helps our veteran community? There's a couple of reasons. First, every CrossFit gym you go into, or at least anyone that I've ever been into, like I started off, those flags sitting there as you're just thrashing your body and you're like, I can only do one more. And then you look up and you have these vivid flashbacks to what we did in country, or, why that flag means something to you. And it pushes you a step farther. Right. It also has the camaraderie, like walk into a CrossFit gym and some of the same, like horrifically terribly funny jokes that we cracked about each other. Like if I walked in and just started making fun of you, if you're in my platoon, we would laugh about it, right?
Hmm.
Some of the same humor exists in a CrossFit gym. Like, and it baffles me. At the gym that I was working at, Shannon and Donnie, they own Iron Bridge CrossFit. Donnie is a pastor. He has a PhD. He's been to seminary, and some of the jokes that he would say makes me feel like he was a Marine. So it's that mentality, but we're supposed to only compete against ourselves, right? That's what you're told from the very beginning. But Tom, man, if it was you and me and we were doing 7 minutes of burpees, I am going to be competing against you.
Oh, absolutely. I think
Hands
that
down, right?
I think that's the mind trick. We're always like, "Yeah, this is take it easy," and then boom.
Yes, and
Yeah.
there's been so many days that has happened. Like Justin Riccio, we talked about him and his brother earlier in the conversation. Like he ended up being my CrossFit teammate. Like we did a couple of competitions together, and this dude is like phenomenal. He's top ranked in the state right now, and just blows me away how good he is. And although I know he's tremendously better than I am, I'm damn well trying to stay pace with him until the very end. Now I'm going to die. I'm not going to do it, but that's just the mentality, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
but I also think it ties into the fact that think back, Tom. What was your MOS? I'm sorry, man. I should have asked earlier.
Oh, is that aircraft maintenance administrator or career recruiter?
Okay,
Pick either or.
so let's go with recruiting, man. Like you had a quota, whether it was 8 or 10 or whatever it was, but you still wanted what if it was 10, you were looking for 11. You were looking for 12.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that was the mentality. And when I was learning how to snatch, it was like, oh, okay, now I can get 115. Now I can get 135. Oh, now I know some technique. Now I'm jumping up to like it's that mentality that you're always striving to be just a little bit better. And I think that that's why it has something to do with our mental health as well. And I'm a big advocate of group classes. Is those same points drive you to be better? And it's a hard place to be. I want to be better, but I want to hurt myself. And so if I can drive you to I want to be better, then I'm driving you away from I want to hurt myself, because you can't be better if you hurt yourself.
Absolutely.
So no, I love the CrossFit community. I know it's done a lot of shifts in ownerships and leadership, and some shifts in mentality. But at the end of the day, if you take out the modality 100%, like, and you don't have to agree with being very balanced between gymnastics, lifting, cardio. Like you don't have to agree with that. But I think everybody could agree with is that environment that we just discussed outside of the actual exercises is a place that is good for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. I think I can't be around people. That's just naturally.
Yeah.
But when I was on the streets, when all aspects of recruiting, when the light comes on, I could dance. You know what I mean? So when going into a box of anywhere, uh, everyone's so forthcoming. It's like going to a new church. Everyone just wants to meet you. The coach is excited. Everyone's like, "Hey," and now I would stay in the back. Be like, all right, this is the class. All right, I'm over here. But it didn't matter what part of the WOD or the workout you were in, if it was the beginning, if you were stretching, everyone was so forthcoming and just nice. And to me, it's just like being in the Marine Corps because everyone you're nice, but you're grilling them too. Like you're like, I know you're not doing these burpees faster than me. You're setting everyone up. You're
Yeah.
watching everybody. But even if you're the last person, no matter what, during that workout, even if the people for the next class are showing up, they're cheering that last person on. And it's like like you're watching the open or you're watching the games, like that energy in that room. And I may have been the last person. Who's saying what? But but no matter what, if you're in there, that there is no shame. There is no. It's just why we have scaling for life.
Yep.
So that's why you have those things because I think it pushes you, it haunts you, but it motivates you all in the same thing because if you take a little bit off and you go back to just boring lifting, I think CrossFit is a disease you get because
Mhm.
once you go back into regular lifting, it's boring. You don't know
Oh,
what else to do. You don't know
yeah.
what's me and my brother-in-law were doing. We'd lift a little, and then we would do the whole workout super fast. There's no breaks. You go, I go, you go, I go, because there was no. You're just so involved in that intensity, and or you're racing the clock, or I think it's
Yeah.
that fierceness and that knowing like that that hard breathing, that burning sensation, your chest about to explode. You're going down that road, but you run even further and harder to get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Tom. What was your pitch? And I already know what it is, but when you were a recruiter, w- go back to 17, 18-year-old me.
Mhm.
What was your pitch to me to make me want to go in the Marine Corps versus the Army?
Well, really, I think that the difference with recruiting with the Marine Corps and other branches is that there is no competition really. Like when you're in the Marine Corps office, purely, we wear the dress uniform, vice, camis or whatever. So that we're not out. Well, we're chasing kids, we're sprinting, we're running down the street after them. But I think it's where do you want to be in 4 to 5 years, and what do you want to have?
Yeah.
What do you want to have in 4 to 5 years? Because everybody, I mean, not everyone's going to the Citadel or the Academy. That's high tier. But even like myself, when I graduated high school, I was going to the community college. That wasn't exciting. That wasn't fun. That wasn't thrilling. But I think it's when you're able to talk to someone and they have no idea about the Marine Corps or the military, and you're telling them things and you see their eyes light up. The best thing I had was really telling someone that they couldn't do it.
That's where I was going with that. That's
Yeah.
100% where I'm going with
Yeah.
that. So my grandfather, amazing individual. He's turning 90 in July. He got out as a first sergeant. He had 3 tours in Vietnam. Up until the last couple of years where he physically can't do it anymore, he would go to the VA every week, not because he was a patient, because he was volunteering to help others. He did the Toys for Tots, not the Toys for Tots that we see on the streets where, oh, I just go drop some stuff, someone picks up a bucket. From Halloween until Christmas Eve,
Mhm.
was doing Toys for Tots. He did it for like 25 years. The governor of South Carolina gave him an award for it because of how much he's done. But one of the things when I was growing up, and full disclosure, like I left this out of like the intro, I was brainwashed, man. Like I knew I was going to the Marine Corps at 4 years old
I
because my
wanted to ask because you're in South Carolina. you only go to so many places.
Yeah,
So
well, I went to Paris Island so many times. My grandfather, he was a DI. He would go down to Paris Island on random family days, and I remember being 4 years old, getting behind a M60
mhm,
and shooting it. M60 is a dinosaur. We don't have those anymore.
mhm.
But still, like that, I was brainwashed with that. But one of the things I remember the most about my grandfather's office and their house was when you walked in, it says, "We will not promise you a rose
A
petal."
rose garden. We would not promise you a rose garden, yeah.
Yeah. And then it had this Marine on the obstacle course that just looked like he was thrashed. And it had some other comment on it. It was like, if you want a challenge, come to the Marine Corps.
Mhm.
And I think that is where the tie in to CrossFit comes, like you were just saying. Nobody's telling me I can't do it, but how much of a mountain did it look like with a bar muscle up? When you first walked into a CrossFit gym and you saw people ripping out bar muscle ups or ring muscle ups like 5, 6, 10 at a time, like that's pretty much in your mind going, I can't do that.
I would say, continuous box jumps.
There you go.
Or that joker, on the rower going nuts, or he's on the echo bike losing his mind.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, those scary scenes, those memories.
But then all of a sudden there's something deep in your gut that's saying, but I bet I can.
Mhm.
And you work to it until you get that. That's why I think veterans like it, because
Absolutely.
it takes you to a dark place that if whether you were Iraq or Afghanistan, sleeping under a tank or on Al Assad, like it takes you to a place that nobody else has been.
Absolutely.
And,
And
and yeah, that's what I think CrossFit does for veterans is it gives us back our
animalistic, emotions,
yeah, yes,
like,
that
you
or
just
just
get savage with it no
it
matter
takes
what.
yeah, and it takes us back to why we joined the Marine Corps. Like, you know why I joined the Marine Corps? Because I wanted to kick open doors and blow shit up.
Mhm.
I didn't go in the Navy. I didn't go in the Air Force. Now, I'm not saying anything negative about any of the branches. Like all the branches serve a great purpose. They have their things, but you go for distinct reasons. I went in the Marine Corps because I wanted to kick open doors and blow shit up. I didn't realize officers didn't really do that, right? But at the end of the day, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to a dark place and doing continuous box jumps or burpee box jumps, man. Oh
Oh.
man, my stomach's turning just thinking about it right now, right? But I want to go to a dark place.
Yeah, I think that is, a best way to put it, that dark place, that release of emotions, that dopamine that we store, that we don't use for good things, that we woke up with
Yep, yep.
while we served, and then we secure it, and then if we don't utilize that dopamine, it turns into, like you said, where can I get that thrill or that release? Well, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, yeah, and I need they you have to be able to feel something,
Yeah.
because I feel while you're serving, you're hooked into something. There's an IV running through your, if it's scarlet and gold, if it's the Marine Corps hem or whatever it is pumping through your veins while you're serving, you guys to the left and right of you, your Marines you're in charge of, whatever it is, when you walk into that box, when you first walk into that CrossFit and you don't know what the WOD of the day is going to be, what workout you're doing, that anxiety, I think that's a good anxiety,
Oh yeah, yeah.
or that 3, 2, 1, go, that nervousness, that beeping of the clock going off, I think brings you back to that place to where, how long is this pain going to be? Especially if you know it's an AMRAP, or if it's like you said, 7 minutes, or it's a countdown. You're just trying to do as much as you can, where everyone else maybe is trying to do at least, because you only got this much time left.
Yeah, yeah.
I could only do this much left, or I could just turn it up and do as many as I can, no matter what. Because at the end, there's going to be a finish, and I'm going to feel amazing at the end, regardless.
Oh yeah, yeah, 1000%, man. Yeah. You're getting me pumped up, man. I'm gonna have to go try to figure out how to do a workout this afternoon.
I'm excited because I still have to work out, and I know we're going to do something silly. Like I said, I took a bunch of time off, but I that feeling of doing the open workouts, just watching the open, them announcing the workouts, like that got me excited, knowing, all right, Friday we're going to turn this, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's the most important thing, and having that community. But I might have to have you on again, because this is just exhilarating. We've been on for a while. You can go to warriorwod.org to find out more.
Yeah.
Go to YouTube, look up Warrior WOD. Um, Especially coming from Purple Heart recipient Phil Palmer, and Intel Marine, coming from the Citadel. I'm glad you didn't tell me all this on, because I would have been more nervous talking to you probably
Man.
before, because I'll tell you what, that's a resume. I've worked with many intel officers. A lot of them became operation officers at the RS. And so a lot of them, then they dodged the bullet. They came right to the RS and got put on recruiting duty. And I've been able to teach and learn from great officers in the Marine Corps. And like you said before, it's that balance of learning, taking, and giving that I think only makes the community even more stronger.
Yeah. I think the Marine Corps does it right, man. Like the fact that they pair us up with a staff sergeant, or in my case, he just got promoted to gunny, but he was Gunny Carson. Like it blew me away how much and especially as I sit here today, how much I learned from Gunny Carson. Like
Mhm.
I could not imagine ha- having a ounce of ego in the presence of him. Right? It just, um, oh, by the way, he was also a black belt in McMap, and he's the one that got me to my black belt. Like, and he kicked
Oh,
ass all the time.
that's why I wanted to go back and ask you. So did you work at the Mace?
I did, yeah. So I was,
Oh, hold
uh,
on. So you worked in the room?
yeah,
I only seen YouTube videos. I was one of those guys when it was at MOS. I wanted to do that. Before recruiting bit me, I wanted to do all those, those little B billets. And I was like, yeah, I'll go do this. I got my gray belt. I retired with my gray belt. So I got it in '04 on the flight line from a green belt instructor. And then when we came back, I wanted to say it was a couple of years later, they changed it, and the syllabus has changed, and I didn't even know the tan belt by that time. Like when I got out of recruit training, I got out May 2001, and we were
oh,
the
you still
first
did line
people.
training.
Hmm?
Did you still do line training?
No, 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 no. We did McMap, but it was like it was still brand new. We
Yeah.
we we got the belts. Like we had web belts, but we were the first ones to graduate with the McMap belts, and no one knew. And so when you get to the fleet and you have a tan belt, you are there's a different feeling from those older Marines.
With the
There
web
was a
belts? Yep.
Oh yeah, there was a big difference. And like you said before, the mentality of those Marines, they were either Vietnam Marines, 80 Marines, they were maybe Desert Storm Marines, maybe. But once you hit 2000, after 9/11, I think that only helped the leadership in the Marine Corps more, because then now you had those young leaders. Because I remember when I went to boot camp, the drill instructors, they were. I mean, you look back now, like you said, it's so different, but
Yeah.
they weren't even in that long to begin with. And so you're put at these different positions in time of leadership, and then you just can grow from there. And when you look and see it, it's astounding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember I was like, man, I want to do that. So that's what you could do. You could just be a trainer down there. And then my buddy went to Greenbelt instructor course on Lejeune, and they beat the hell out of him. And he would just tell me stories, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. And then I watched videos about the Mace. YouTube's dangerous.
Oh, it's
'Cause
one
so I saw videos, and I was like, They shut the door? What? Like all these different, I don't know anything about it. I just remember they shut a door, you're in the mace, and it's just bad. It's
Yeah,
just bad forever for everybody. So
man, I had uh, a group of sergeants and Staff Sergeant Lee, Sergeant Leaf, Sergeant um, Boudin. Like these guys were lethal with their jiu-jitsu, with the Muay Thai. Sergeant Leaf now is a nutrition coach for MMA fighters.
mhm.
And
And they're not little guys either.
no, so
They're they're some
Sergeant
meat
Leaf was
eaters.
probably 5'6", 5'7", but he weighed 185 and had zero fat on him, like zero. Like this dude was a rock, and he wrestled very. I forget exactly where he's from, but he was a state champion wrestler. We had several that were like black belts in jiu-jitsu. Like it was insane. And I wrestled in high school, and I wrestled for a year while I was at the Citadel. Um, I think that that's why I ended up getting that billet. So I had a little bit of experience, right?
Mhm.
Man, I don't think there was a single Marine that, regardless if they weighed 250 pounds or they weighed 115, the single Marine that was assigned to the mace that did not kick my ass. Hands but it was such a cool environment because my day was show up around 5:30, roll around for a little while, eat, roll around for a little while, eat, go for a run with my flak jacket, eat. Like that was my day. And then in between it was, mentoring Marines because at this point I was already in, I don't know, 6-ish years. And so, and I've seen, two tours in Iraq. I've taught at the basic school. So now I have something to give back, right? They were giving me a lot. And I learned so
Mhm.
much from these guys, like amazing individuals, all of them. But at the same time, I now was able to offer something back. Staff Sergeant Lee, I helped him put in his chief warrant or his warrant officer package, and he got it right.
Oh, that's awesome.
There was a couple others that I put in their MESEP packages, and they got it, which is like super cool. Now one's a captain that I put his package together, and it's like, all right, I'm actually giving back a little bit. But that was a good time. And then Colonel Shisco, man, like hands down, one of the best human beings I've ever met. Um, he has a mystery behind him, but if you get on the other side of that mystery and you get to know that man, um, if he interacts with you one time, he is your biggest advocate forever. Like he's the type of person that, cool, you're a Marine, enough said, I got your back. And he will go down in flames fighting for you to be better. Now, yeah, I just so my daughter was in the ICU. So my daughter just turned 1 on March 1st,
Mhm.
right before her birthday. She woke up one day very labored breathing and just struggling to breathe. And we took her to the ER, which then landed her in the ICU. They put a ventilator in her and then a paralytic, which, if you don't know what a paralytic is, I didn't know what the hell it was until then. They paralyzed her
Oh,
for 9
wow.
days. So she couldn't even breathe on her own. Her whole body not functioning. She was essentially just not, she was alive, but if it wasn't for the ventilator, she couldn't do anything. So
Mhm.
she was on a ventilator for 9 days, um, gets off, has a recovery, and she's perfectly fine now. But Colonel Shisco went above and beyond to put me at ease. He's in Virginia. He's retired. He's like, and I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. And just, if I would have asked him, hey, sir, I need you to come down here, he would have made it happen. He would have
Mhm.
dropped the fork in his hand and dropped everything and got in his car and drove down. Like that's the kind of man he is. And to work under and to be led by someone of that caliber, just, I mean, people talk about being blessed. That is being blessed because not only did he take care of me when I was in the Marine Corps, but he showed me what good looked like. And
Mm-hmm.
hope I hope that I have a fraction of his what he taught me pumping through me when I interact with other people. Because if I only have a fraction, then I'm making the world a little bit better.
That's amazing.
So,
That's amazing. That's the beauty of working under great, like you said, working amongst giants,
yep. Well,
especially him.
yeah.
Like he developed the McMath program.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when I looked, I'm not gonna lie, I looked on the board. I went on the website and I saw him and I was like, I've seen him a lot. and I was and when as soon as you said his name, when you said his name, I was like, ah, that's who he is. I've been running from him for the last 22 years.
He is an amazing individual. And any Marine or anybody that has interacted with him has been is better off because of him. Uh,
Mhm.
so, oh, and here's the other thing. He flew going back to aircraft, right? He was HMX-1. He flew for Reagan. So, I mean, if that like gives you a little bit of history of who he is, but he would never tell you any of this stuff. Like he doesn't brag. He's just a good dude. Like
Yeah,
hands down, best compliment you could give another Marine is just being a good dude, and he is one.
that's special. That's
Yeah,
a good tag right there. So you
yeah.
did spend a lot of time on Quantico, huh? A couple days?
Yeah, man. So 2009 to 2012 when I was a captain, and then uh, you being in recruiting, you may know this. So I originally started off as PLC, platoon leader course, right?
Mhm.
And that means you go to Quantico 2 summers in a row. And the reason why I didn't get the NRTC scholarship, I can't make this shit up, man. And it baffles me to today. So I applied for the Navy ROTC scholarship, which would get me commissioned in the Marine Corps, and they would pay for it. And they were like, "All right, cool. You got all the stats that we need. Go run a PFT." And I did
Yep.
20 pull-ups because I was a wrestler. Like pull-ups
Mhm.
was nothing, crunches were nothing, and I ran a 3 mile. I ran it in 18:06, and I had a 299 score. And unless I had a 300, I didn't qualify.
Yeah, times did change because yeah, they would have made you the comment on when when I was on the streets. Because yeah, there's a big difference. We I remember we'd sit there on the weekends. We'd have all the interview all the guys coming up to talk to
Yeah.
the XO. They would come and do their interviews for the scholarships, and we watched their PFTs. A lot different than the score you just mentioned.
Yeah, man. And it was interesting. Like that again, this was before 9/11. This was August of 2001. So they're like, no, very tough pickings, blah, blah, blah. And
Oh
then
yeah.
I went into the PLC course because I'm going to go in the Marine Corps. Whether I enlist, go officer, I don't care. Like at some point, I'm going in the Marine Corps because my grandfather, you know, I've got to do it for him,
Yeah.
and myself as well. But so I go to the PLC. They gave me the scholarship, and they're like, "Hey, listen, the only way you can go in the Marine Corps with us is if you go as a pilot." So for anyone that's listening in the Marine Corps, you could go ground contract or air contract, right? And other than that, when you go in, you have no idea what your MOS is going to be. You're either going to be a pilot or you're going to be on the ground in some fashion. So I went through, I took the test to become a pilot, finally passed it after, I'm not going to tell you how many attempts, but it was multiple, right?
They were there.
And so I finally passed it. I go to Quantico for OCS for my first session. So this is
Mhm.
juniors. I'm there, and the first day we run a PFT, I get a 300, and the MOI, the Marine officer in charge from the Citadel, comes up to Quantico every class just to see their Marines because they put in like 20 or 25 every class, right?
Mhm.
And so he pulls me off. He's like, "Hey, you don't have to be here anymore. You can leave if you want to." This is like out of 6 weeks, this is like week 3 or 4. And I was like, nope. Like, I was enjoying myself, right? Like I
Yeah.
just spent a year at the Citadel being hazed and seeing bad leadership. And now I'm seeing good leadership. Gunny Hammer and the whole crew that was there. Like just good leadership. Stern, expected a lot, but good dudes, right?
So when you go for those 2 weeks, they have the drill instructors there as well, or is this just learning?
No, no. So when you show up for that first 6 weeks, these guys were at Paris Island or San Diego, and then this is just second billet, right?
Oh yeah.
You show up now. You don't call them drill instructors; they're called sergeant instructors. Uh,
Okay.
but they're essentially they just get off the drill field. That's
That's-
like literally just get off the drill field, and the second half of their time they come up and train us. But yeah, the only difference, and I may be missing this a little bit because full disclosure, never been to Paris Island, never been to San Diego as a recruit, right?
Mhm.
My understanding is that for boot camp, what they're trying to do is get instant willing obedience to orders. Can you listen and accomplish the mission? We're at OCS, they want to see can you fail and overcome that?
Absolutely.
And so that, but it's the same people doing it, so Gunny Hammer, and his name was Hammer, and he looked like a damn hammer, like, dude was massive. And then there was another one, Gunny Mast. I don't know how they align their names to like how they look. Think of like a mast on the ship, like something massive. This dude looked like Shrek.
Mhm.
Um, but so these guys, I forget where we're going with that, man. But like these guys, again, walking amongst giants, 1000%, great individuals. Oh yeah, I remember where I was going. So they were like, "Hey, you can leave," and I'm like, "I don't want to leave. I got 2 weeks left. I could graduate, and graduate. Like if I would have came home after 4 weeks, what would that have done to me? It would have made me feel
Oh,
hurt. Um, and so then I get the ROTC scholarship, and then I have to go again and experience it all over again. But I'm one of those, I guess, sadistic guys that actually enjoyed OCS. Like I truly did enjoy it. Um, I don't know. There was just something about it. Just looking at the caliber of people that had already made it, that just put like fire in my veins. I just wanted to be them so bad. So,
absolutely.
um,
Yeah, there's a thing that many people will never get or see, but I remember seeing Marines just in the mall. I didn't know they didn't know anything. They just got out of boot camp and now they're working for a recruiter. But I remember seeing them when I was in the depth myself, and I was like, man, I'm gonna be like them. Like just seeing them, it was that next step of gratitude of knowing where I could foresee it, like,
yeah,
you know what? That's what I'm gonna be able to do, and it
yeah.
was incredible.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, I know we've been on this for a long time. I could talk to you probably the rest of the evening. Um,
Absolutely.
dude, talking to you again, being able to say walking amongst giants, I definitely put you in that arena as well. This has been awesome. I've loved watching what you've been producing and you know, just seeing what you're putting out in social media and getting to understand what you're accomplishing. Thank you, man. Like you're
Oh,
part of
I
the reason,
appreciate it.
and you're making a huge impact. For your listeners, like super stoked to see where you're going to go. I heard you introduce it as this is episode 5. Man,
That's
I,
it.
I hope you have 345, and I come back as a guest, and you've got a audience that's just foaming at the mouth to watch or listen to your next episode because this is good.
Absolutely.
I love what you're doing here.
I appreciate it. I just appreciate your time. I appreciate the conversation, and I do appreciate the knowledge and the wisdom that you took from your career, and you were able to have Warrior WOD for veterans helping. And I think that is just the call of duty that not everyone gets after they served. It just becomes something, I believe, a passion and a purpose that gets dealt. That's the cards we get dealt, to where we have to intervene some point in other people's lives to show them the grass is greener sometimes, but
Yeah.
we have to show them it how it's not going to be perfect, but we can get there together.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
I appreciate it. Make sure everyone go to warriorwod.org, go to the gift shop. I have a cart full. I have to hit cash out. Go check it out. Make sure, if you don't know, if you have anyone that's with you, anyone you're related to, anyone that you served with, any veterans, refer them over to warriorwod.org. Check out their YouTube channel. Phil, anything you have to pass before we let it go?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, man. Like if you're suffering, whether you're getting help from myself or any of the other amazing veteran support organizations around the country, do it. One's too many, man. Like at the end of the day, um, people need you. Like if you're suffering, people need you. And even if it is originally to do it for them, do it and get help. Come to us. I'll happily put my number in the show notes if you want me to. If someone needs someone to talk to, let, let's get them the help that they need.
Sounds perfect. Hey, this has been Every Second Counts podcast. Make sure you make every second count. Let's go.